Well, hello everyone, Texie88 here and welcome to another retro gaming review. And this time I bring you Ghostbusters for the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. Now, this came out courtesy of Activision in 1984. And as you probably guessed, it's based on the massively successful horror comedy film of the same name. The one that's had Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson and Dan Aykroyd as the titular Ghostbusters. Now bear in mind this is a 48K Spectrum, so sample speech like that was very, very rare at the time. And now you've got this karaoke style rendition of Ray Parker Jr.'s theme tune, which is also called Ghostbusters. And it changed, rather than bouncing ball you get in some other versions, you just get it changing colour like this. That's enough of that. So, Ghostbusters for professional paranormal investigations and eliminations. We're ready to believe you. To form a Ghostbusters franchise in your city, please state your name last first. Do you have an account? You'd only answer yes to that if you've played previously and managed to successfully end up with more money than you started with, so I'm answering no to this. In that case, welcome to your new business. As a franchise owner, the bank will advance you $10,000 for equipment. Use it wisely, good luck. This is where you choose the car. Now, as you can see, the bottom one is not even open for consideration because it's too expensive. It costs $5,000 more than the money I've been allowed. So by pressing space and the car number, you can actually just view the car without committing to buying it. This is the cheapest car. It can carry 5 items of cargo and only goes 75 miles an hour. So and here's the 1963 hearse, which you may recognise as being the car that was actually used in the film. Carries 9 items of cargo, top speed 90 miles an hour. So for not all that much more than that lowest priced car, you can get nearly twice as many items of cargo and a slightly faster speed. And the other one we can afford is the station wagon. And here it is. Carries 11 items and can go 110 miles an hour. And although we can't afford it, we're going to take a look at the high performance one. So that's the high performance car. Only carries 7 items of cargo but can go 160 miles an hour, so it's the fastest of the 4 cars. But as I said, that car is completely out of the question in this playthrough because I can't afford it. And I'm not really keen on going for the station wagon either because that would only leave me with $4,000 to get ghost-busting equipment. So I'm gonna get the 1963 hearse. So now I've got 5.2k left in money for buying equipment. So use this forklift to plop things on the car. And as you can see in the bottom right corner, it tells you how much dosh you've got left. Now I've just pressed, as it says, it's 1 to 3 for more choices. That's a portable laser confinement system. I'll explain that in a bit, but either way I can't afford it, so I'm not even going to consider it. Ghost bait. Ghost vacuum. And finally, we put as many traps as we, well, a combination of as many as we can afford, and as many as the car's capacity will allow me to put on. I can't have any more than 3 traps because I can't afford. I've only got $500, and each trap is worth $600. So E to end. So that's me, the Ghostbusters symbol, and that's Ghostbusters headquarters in the near the bottom middle where it says GHQ. And these flashing buildings here are where there are ghosts attacking. So on the way there, now you might be thinking, what's the point in these driving sections? Well, if you actually drive over a ghost that's heading towards the Zool building in the middle of the map, you can actually use the ghost vacuum. That's not me doing that. It's automatically doing that. Now, here's one of my ghost busting people. So ideally, you want to place a trap in the middle of the screen. Get one of your guys over there and facing to the right. Then you press fire and don't cross the streams, just like in the film. Oh. Yes, got him. And now one of my traps is filled. So since there's nothing, when you got those buildings that are sort of glowing pink, or well, magenta really, like that, then they're sort of being attacked, but you might have to faff around being really pedantic at where you actually access the building in order to find the ghost. Otherwise, you just get nothing. I haven't quite figured out how you know where you really need to go in order to get the ghost in the buildings that are sort of glowing magenta but not actually flashing. Well, either way, we found him this time. As you probably guessed, that ghost is based on Onion Head, who would later become known as Slimer. Go on, get your ass in there. Yes, got ya. That really is quite clear speech, considering it's a 48K Spectrum. And now you can see some ghosts appearing on the map. Now I'm going to deliberately pass by one of those ghosts. Once you do that, you'll know if you've done it because the ghost will stop moving. Now I'm going to go back to Ghostbusters headquarters to empty the 2 traps that I've filled with those ghosts, because I've only got one more free trap left, and if they all get filled up, then I won't be able to catch any more ghosts until I've gone back to Ghostbusters headquarters to empty them into the containment system in that building. And there's the ghosts that I passed by. So I just used the ghost vacuum to suck it into the. There's all my matey boys coming out. Presumably it's based on the earlier section of the film before Winston joined, but that's hence the reason there are only 3 Ghostbusters. Now, about that portable laser confinement system that you saw as being potentially selectable when you were buying equipment. As I mentioned, once you've filled traps, you only empty them if you take them back to Ghostbusters headquarters. The portable laser confinement system stops you from having to do that. Well, I can't remember whether it stopped you from having to do that at all, or stopped you from having to do that as often. I think it's the former, but don't quote me on that because it's been a while since I last played this. Where is this ghost? There you are, you little bugger. Little bit of colour clash as my Ghostbuster walked past the door. Oh, damn it, I did that too early. Come on, Onion Head, get over the trap. The problem is if you leave it too long, the trap activates itself anyway. Get over here! Come on, get over here. Apart from the sample speech, unfortunately, there's no sound. God, that was lucky. What's that guy doing? He's having a bit of a spazzing out session there. Yeah, there's the Zool building in the middle, which in New York was represented by 55 Central Park West. I actually have some footage of that when I went on holiday to New York in March of 2017. I took some footage of that building. Oh, God. It's another of these where I have to have a bit of a faff trying to find out where the ghost is. Nope. To select a building that's below you, actually have to press down and fire. If you just press up and fire, it'll only do the building that's above you on the map. Oh, where is this ghost? Do you really have to get in the car for such a short distance? When you got a big pot belly, Peter. I can't find this ghost. Ugh. And as you guessed, you actually make money by trapping ghosts and catching ghosts and so forth. I can't find the ghost that's in this building. Oh, I give up with that one. Well, wherever that ghost was, it's not there anymore. I couldn't find it. Now, that thing that just went past me is the gatekeeper, and in between Park Avenue and Church Street, you can see a blue key going southwards. That's the key. That's the key master. Ah, action at last. There's part of me that kind of wishes there's some way of skipping these driving sections, because unless you actually have ghosts to suck up, it's a bit dull. Still, this is nowhere near as bad as the Nintendo Entertainment System version. If you want to play a really bad version of Ghostbusters, play that version, and I dare you. That's all I can say. Get over it, Onion Head. Thank you. Got ya, you git. Stop doing that, you weirdo. Why do you keep doing that? You need a bog or something. Right. So long, sucker. Sorry, that was a bad joke, wasn't it? Oh, another case of trying to faff around trying to find this wretched ghost. Pretty good graphical representation of the car for a game that came out in 1984. Remember, this was a 48K Spectrum. dear me, this is getting irritating now. All I want to do is find this bloody ghost. Thank you. Oh God, I missed. I know he slimed you. I saw it with my own eyes. So that means I've only got 2 active Ghostbusters. If another one gets slimed, then I have to go back to Ghostbusters headquarters before I can catch any more ghosts. You can't, because if I didn't do that, I'd only have 1 Ghostbuster, and it won't let you try and catch any ghosts unless you got at least 2 Ghostbusters who are active and haven't been slimed. And there you go, being a dinkler again. You have no more traps. Go back to GHQ. That'll also mean I'll be able to unslime that Ghostbuster who got slimed just now. Got $4,200. What you're trying to do is make enough money so that when it comes to endgame, you end up with more money than you started with. It's not all just catching ghosts like this. There are moments when the Marshmallow Man appears, and I believe that's how the ghost bait comes into play, although I've never actually successfully been able to use it. Rightio. Oh, blast. This is going to be hard now. You absolute bugger. Yeah, so thinking back to the NES version, when you're driving along from one part to another in the view that's similar to this, you actually have to contend with drunk drivers. Well, it seems like they're drunk, so they just meander all over the place like they've forgotten how to actually steer. And every time your car takes a knock, guess who has to pay for the damage? Yep, you. And of course that impacts on your budget. There's none of that in this version, thank God. And in that version, you didn't have to worry about running out of fuel. And if your car runs out of fuel, you actually have to sit back and watch as 2 of the Ghostbusters get out of the car and push the car to the next petrol station, which could be quite some way away. So you could be sitting for many, many seconds, possibly even over a minute, before you actually reach a petrol station to refuel the car, which is absolutely ridiculous. As you can see, there's a little bit of colour clash when there's when the Ghostbusters symbol is against buildings. City's PK energy is in the bottom middle. So, caught another ghost. How much will we get for that? 8,000. Oh God, it's really starting to heat up now. The other one's just across the road. The only real problem with this game is that it's really quite dull. And the fact that save for the sample speech, there's absolutely no sound whatsoever. It does make for a somewhat empty experience, really. Yeah, so there's a lot of rinse and repeat when it comes to this game. I know we couldn't really have expected too much for a game that came out in 1984. It's just a bit of a shame there wasn't a bit more to help break this monotony. Bit of colour clash when the traps extension goes past buildings as well. No more traps, so go back to Ghostbusters headquarters. Dirty car, how dare you belch like that? What do you mean it was me? I'm not the one who just consumed a ghost. 7.3k, so I've nearly. Oh dear. So I'm not all that far from the 10 grand that the bank loaned to us at the very beginning of the game. Yeah. Oh, blast. It zipped over to the right just as I was. Why do I get the feeling I'm going to end up getting someone slimed? Oh, no. That wasn't ideal. Another thing I'm kind of glad about in this version compared to the NES version, which I also played via emulation, is that in the NES version you have the Ghostbusters theme tune playing on an endless loop, and it just gets so irritating. Oh no, I'll have to go back to GHQ now because that's two Ghostbusters got slimed. So I've only got one Ghostbuster that currently hasn't been slimed, so I can't catch any more ghosts no matter how badly I need them. I have to admit, that building doesn't look much like the Hook and Ladder 8 that they used in the film. It can get a bit boring while you're waiting for a building to get attacked by a ghost, so you can actually do some more busting to make you feel good, as the song goes.
There's a drink for you. If you want more, it's on the kitchen table.
So this is actually getting kind of boring now. Here we go. Ooh, 2. Problem is, it's another of those occasions where it's sort of all pink, and where you have to be very specific as to where you try and enter the building to try and actually get hold of the ghost in the first place. I sort of wonder how much space they might have had they not had the sampled speech. Whether that would have been enough to make a bit more to actually do, because doing this same thing for the vast majority of the game is pretty tedious. Oh, God, get down here. Get down, thank you. Oh, no. Oh, God, thank God for that. You also, as in the film, you have to be careful not to cross those streams. Because if you do that, you have to abandon the ghost catching and go back to headquarters. So it's not quite as serious as what Egon said while trying to bust Onion Head in the Sedgwick Hotel in the film. But I bet in the film they had far less trouble trying to find ghosts than I am when it's not one of those one that's flashing red. Come on, bidey bye. Why does he do that? Everything's getting a lot faster now. The PKE reading of the city is starting to become an issue. Then I've got to go back to the Ghostbusters headquarters because I haven't got any more unfilled traps. But I haven't got back every last dollar that I borrowed from the bank. So you might be wondering if you've never seen this game before, is the Marshmallow Man in this? And the simple answer is yes. As you probably guessed by the fact that one of the things I put on the car is a marshmallow sensor. Oh no! Oh no! I'll have to be really lucky with this. Oh, so close. I very nearly walked right into it. Yeah. Also on my channel, there's actually some footage that I took of the real Hook and Ladder 8 in New York City. Although I did that in July of 2018 because in 2017 the building was covered in scaffolding and netting because it was undergoing a major refurb, and the scaffolding didn't start to come down until early April of 2018. So that. Oh no! Oh, good. Just so I was able to get a clear shot of the uninterrupted view of the iconic building. It's actually really quite eerie being on visiting a filming location. It doesn't really matter if it's a major one like Hook and Ladder 8 or a relatively minor one. Right, I'm going to go back to the Ghostbusters headquarters and not only empty those traps, but revive, in inverted commas, the guy that got slimed a few moments ago. This really is starting to get a bit dull. A lot of the time you're just waiting for something more interesting to happen, and it's really such a shame. PKE reading's getting a bit high. I just wish there was more sound. I mean, strangely enough, is one of the few times I actually you're just itching for some blips and blobs just to break the monotony of the silence. I wonder if I'm actually going to be able to get that ghost, given how quickly I was able to get to the... Ah, good, I did manage to get it before I got pulled over to the building. Graphics are nice and colourful, I suppose. Pretty simplistic, but then it is an early game. The Spectrum was still in its infancy at the time. Damn it. Spectrum was still in its infancy at the time. It wasn't really until much later in its life that we started to get games that really pushed the platform to its limits. But then that isn't wildly unusual regardless of the platform. It's really hard to know what to say to break monotony of this review, because there's so little variety for the most part. It's a lot of the time it's just driving around catching ghosts, and maybe if you're lucky managing to suck up some ghosts on the way there. There really isn't a huge amount to actually do. Oh no. I completely mistimed that. Will it let me do this? No, I can't. Backup men are all out of action because two of them have got slimed. Pretty good graphic of the car there, I have to admit. Although if there's one Ghostbusters game that every fan of the franchise should play, it's the one that came out in 2009, which was just called Ghostbusters the video game. And many fans of the franchise consider that to effectively be Ghostbusters 3. It's set in 1991, 2 years after the events of Ghostbusters 2, and you essentially play as a recruit, and it's got voices from pretty much all of the key members of the original cast. Bearing in mind that Harold Ramis was still alive at the time; he didn't die until 2014, and yeah, you play as this recruit and have to battle the ghosts alongside the other four Ghostbusters familiar to you from the first and second films. It works really well, and you genuinely do feel like you're busting ghosts more than an 8-bit machine's version it could ever really make you feel. It's done so well. If you ever get the chance, I urge you to try it. I mean, for the Xbox One and the PS4 and presumably also the Windows PCs, it was actually given a recent remaster. So quite a lot of ghost-infested buildings at the moment. Nighty night, Slime. Sorry, Onion Head, if you weren't called Slimer at the time. Marshmallow alert. Where is it going to be? There it is. There's the Marshmallow Man. Marshmallow Man did $4,000 worth of damage. That amount will be deducted from your balance. What do you mean will be? It already has been, you lying toad. You have no more traps. Go back to GHQ. But either way, I've still got more money than the bank gave me, albeit only by $100. Still be able to buy a Chinese takeaway like they did before they got their first customer in the form of the Sedgwick Hotel. You remember they bought that with the last of the petty cash they had. Oh, it's really starting to hot up now. What? Oh, it's gone. So occasionally that happened. You go to a building that's flashing, and sometimes by the time you get there, the ghost isn't there anymore. And that's exactly what happened there, because that building definitely was flashing when I first selected it. So has this Ghostbusters game aged well? Well, not really. What? I clearly got him. That stream clearly got him. How did that miss? So as I was saying, do you think this game's aged well? Well, I don't think it's aged all that well at all. Yeah, it starts. Initially, the excitement of being a Ghostbuster sort of hits you, and it's not a terrible game. It's just really, really repetitive. Even for its time, it doesn't really have a huge amount to offer. Are you kidding me? I only got $500 for that ghost. Whoa, it's getting heavy. Yeah, I know weight has nothing to do with it. Oops, sorry, wrong film. I don't know, when you're buying all the equipment for your car, you sort of wonder whether there's actually really any shop that would just be selling that kind of thing. My guess is no. I mean, can you imagine walking into a hardware store and asking for a vacuum cleaner that's specifically tailored for catching ghosts, and driving around with it being on? Oh God! Notice how that building that the Marshmallow Man walked on is all crumbled and bent and buckled and so forth. There's some nice little additional touches like that, which we got to bear in mind. Again, this is a 1984 game on an 8-bit computer, so seeing that kind of detail is actually quite a nice touch. Yeah. This really isn't very interesting for the most part. It's far from a terrible game. It's just really, really repetitive. I mean, this, for the vast majority of the game, this shebang is pretty much all that you do. You're just trying to catch enough of these ghosts to get more money than you started with. And of course, there's a problem that there's, with the exception of the sampled speech, there's absolutely no sound whatsoever. One thing I don't like about the keyboard controls in this, although it's got QAOP, which is a hugely popular standard for up, down, left, right, respectively, instead of saying like space or something, it's got Z for fire. It's not ideal. Or Z if you're in the United States. So, mind you, my understanding is that in the United States the spectrum never really caught on. So I expect that if there are any people from that country, from that era who are seeing this, they're probably laughing their bollocks off at how simplistic and everything is. But one thing you have to bear in mind is my understanding from my from other family members who've spoken to me is that at the time the Spectrum came out, the UK and possibly even Europe had a pretty bad recession. So Sir Clive Sinclair came up with the Spectrum as a computer that could do colour and was affordable. A lot of people just couldn't afford the Commodore 64, and especially not the Amstrad at the best of times. So the Spectrum did turn out to be a very popular computer. And as for why it's graphics, why it's got the color clash issues, the thing is, my understanding is that Sir Clive Sinclair didn't actually want the Spectrum to be a games machine. He envisaged it as a business machine, so he didn't. So it was deemed less important for memory to be devoted to the screen and to sound. And yet, despite all this, there have been some absolute gems of games released for the Spectrum, many of which are still, more than a few of which are still considered classics to this day. I mean, one classic I can absolutely recommend is the 128K Spectrum version of Chase HQ. Oh, darn it. There is a 48K Spectrum version as well, but the 128K version, it has far better sound and has sampled speech. There simply wasn't the space for the speech in the 48K version, and the 128K Spectrum had a better sound chip anyway. PKE of this city is getting really high now. Oh, poo sticks. I swear that Onion Head goes through the streams at times. Come on, get over here. Once the Ghostbusters are set in facing a particular direction, that's it. You can't change the direction they face. So if you're wondering why I didn't just turn around and face that way, that's why. Yeah, so I've got to go back to GHQ because 2 of the 3 Ghostbusters have been slimed. And you just cannot catch a ghost without at least 2 Ghostbusters in full operational order. They've got to wipe all that gunk off them. Never mind the fact they probably got all that gunk in the car by them being rather squelchy and sitting on them. Marshmallow alert. Oh God, how much damage is it going to do this time? I would like to know how you actually use the ghost bait in this, because I can't get it to work at all. I have read that it is something to do with the Marshmallow Man, but I've just not been able to figure out how to actually use it. You absolute bastard. So as you can see from the scrolling message at the bottom, I had another £4,000 deducted, which unfortunately put me just below the 10 grand that the bank did. You can't actually stop the keymaster and gatekeeper in any way. You just had that marshmallow attack not happened, I would have been all right and could have taken on the Marshmallow Man, which is just a case of managing to get two people into the building while the Marshmallow Man just bounces around in front of the door. And if you don't do it just right, then the Ghostbuster you're trying to get inside will just get covered in marshmallow and be out of action. And if that happens to two of your Ghostbusters, you're screwed and completely lose the game. So that's Ghostbusters for the Sinclair ZX Spectrum. Graphics, fairly simplistic for the most part. They do the job. The good use of colour, a little bit of clash here and there. Nice representation of the 1963 Hearst car. And things move at a reasonably brisk pace. And at least I had a chance to show you the Marshmallow Man so you could see what he looks like. Sound. Well, apart from the beeper tune rendition of the Ghostbusters theme tune in that karaoke section at the very beginning, and the sampled speech, and the sort of clickety-clack sound that these yellow background text screens show, there is no sound whatsoever. No engine rumbles for the car you're in, no sounds for the ghosts, no sound for the traps, and no sound for the streamers. So for the most part, it's a pretty silent experience. Again, on Spectrum, silence for the most part, until the 128K Spectrum came about at least, was something that users of the platform pretty much had to come to terms with, because especially with the sampled speech in this, which no doubt took a fair chunk of the memory, there probably wasn't a huge amount left to come up with a sound that was even remotely listenable. Because some of the sounds that Spectrum makes, unless the programmers really know what they're doing, could be quite shrill, and the speaker in the 48K Spectrum was actually in the keyboard, so you couldn't actually turn it down via the volume control of your screen, be it a TV or whatever. Gameplay starts off okay, and then you realise it's by and large the same thing of just trying to catch enough ghosts to make enough money, so that when it's game over, you've got more money than you started with. It really does get tedious after a while, and as a result, the game doesn't really stand the test of time. And the driving sections are only even remotely interesting if you actually pass by ghosts on the map on the way to your intended destination. Otherwise, there's literally nothing to do. You can move left and right and be along the road, but apart from that, it's pretty pointless. And you can't skip those or speed them up. And it's not helped by the fact that there's no sound at all in those sections. So longevity is severely impacted by the fact that the game is just so repetitive. So I'm going to give Ghostbusters for the Sinclair ZX Spectrum 4 out of 10. It just hasn't aged well. It's just not got enough to truly engage people anymore. I mean, it starts off okay, but it doesn't take long before the whole process of going to buildings to catch ghosts loses its novelty, and it's doubtful you want to play the game for longer than a session or two at a time. And it's not likely to be a game that you'll come back to frequently. There's just not enough to it. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that review. Hope to catch you on another one soon. Texie88 out.